Rayzr. Hey, welcome back to Sketchin with Rayzr, and today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I recently looked up some images for an art piece that I was working on, and then I found out that one of the images was an AI image for an anime art piece, and I said, oh, that while I normally don't use AI, I like the style that it created, so I wanted to replicate it in some way, which is a great help because initially I was drawing a character in a unique pose, but now that the image that I'm replicating is simply just the head, shoulders, and top portion of the torso, it would make the process for drawing the character that I was initially working on a lot easier. And that character is a mute orphan named Polly from one of the demos that I recently played called Silly Polly Beast, which is funny because there's an X in between Silly Polly, so I don't know if it's one of those Hunter x Hunter situations where you just ignore the X, or you say the X within a title. Silly X Polly Beast sounds a little ridiculous, so it's probably not the case. I'd also rather not repeat history, where I had to throw hands with people back in middle school for making fun of me saying Hunter x Hunter. But Silly Polly Beast is about Polly running away after she burned down the orphanage that she was living in. I believe the reason why she did that is because she, her sister, and the other children were not being treated well. At least that's the impression that I got due to the small length of the demo. But before Polly burns down the orphanage, her sister makes sure to get the other orphans outside of the building. The next step of the plan is for both sisters to meet back up on top of a hill, across a bridge, away from the situation. But Polly is the only one who shows up. Polly tries to message her sister, but she never answers. So Polly goes to sleep and waits there for her sister. But while she's sleeping, a gray wolf walks up to her, and then its eyes pop out into this weird googly eyes situation before it snatches her lighter. She wakes up the next day to go and look for the lighter, only to fall down a hole and end up in another realm. While she's exploring the other realm, she finds the wolf, which gives her back the lighter, but she almost gets captured by these creepy shadow hands, only to be protected by a creature called the Tormented. Polly then makes a deal with the Tormented in order to release the Tormented from their shackles, and in exchange, send Polly back to her realm. Polly becomes linked through a chain to the Tormented, which is why she has a collar around her neck. Throughout her quest, she'll pick up various items, like a revolver, a shotgun, some explosives, and you can even smack people around with a skateboard. What's interesting about the revolver that you get is that its actual name is called Demolver, as in Demon Revolver. The bullets are called Steel Messengers, and they have these little faces on them, and it's the kind of face you make when you stub your toe. But the grossest thing is when it comes to the grenades. The grenades are these tiny larva creatures, and lighting one of the umbilical cords would essentially turn it into something like a dynamite stick. I can only imagine how gross it would be to use those. But I think my favorite thing that the developers allowed us to do was they set up this sort of obstacle area where we gain the ability to temporarily fly as long as we have enough ammo. And in order to get across this huge pit and prevent ourselves from falling into it, we have to use the recoil of our gun to project ourselves away and around different obstacles and into these ammo replenishing barrels so that we can finally get across the gap and onto a safe area. I thought it was a very clever and out of the box way to use our weapons, as well as a change of pace from fighting a whole bunch of enemies previously. It's a fun demo, and I definitely recommend getting it on Steam if you have it. But in terms of the art piece, I think the most trouble that I had with it was in regards to not only getting the line weights to match up with the line weight within the AI art piece, but the hair. Definitely the hair. Because I'm not used to drawing so many strands within the hair, let alone a lot of strands with deep shadows. I also had trouble mimicking it looks like a blending effect going on within the hair. I'm not sure if I replicated it properly, but it was definitely tricky trying to get that smooth blending effect. But in terms of the background, there was this really great section towards the end of the game where there's this snapshot of her standing in front of the camera and in front of this sort of symmetrical, chaotic realm background, and looks really amazing. There's like these giant glowing cracks in the sky. There's these gritty urban gates behind her. There's this huge sort of golden archway with these giant nails sticking through them. And it all gives me this sort of chaotic, urban, heavy metal vibe to it. I honestly want to draw a full body rendering of it. But aside from that, that's all I got for you guys today. I hope you guys have a good one. and make sure to keep your mind, body, and soul razor sharp.
Rayzr.